Hey everyone, this is Jeff with Texar Auto Glass. Just going to make a video today showing you how to use this Harbor Freight windshield removing tool. Picked this up for 15 bucks. I think it was $14.99 at Harbor Freight today. This is what most people in the automotive glass industry would refer to as a cold knife or a pull knife. They're calling it a windshield removing tool. It's the same thing. It's been used in the industry for forever. Probably if you hire someone to come out and take the glass out of your car, chances are they're going to pull one of these out. So there's a few things with this tool. Just going to show you some of the details of it, how to use it, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Okay, so for this demonstration today with the windshield removing tool, we're going to be using the shop project truck here. This is a 96 Chevy extended cab. It's got part number 1217 is the windshield part number. There's a million of these trucks out on the road. They're the same body style between 88 to 98 in the half tons, and I think they went to 2000 in some of the 1-ton trucks and the Suburbans, I think. But there's a million of these trucks out on the road. This one's got a LS swap, got a little LQ9 or 4L80 there. But that's the truck. So let's show you the cutout tools here. Alright, so here's a tool. We'll just go ahead and open this bad boy up. We've got next to it the tool I use every day to cut out windshields. This one is made by Equalizer. There's a bunch of different brands. It's essentially the same thing. It just has it so you can quickly change out the blade. Now, right off the bat, I see an issue with this cold knife. And that's it. If you notice, on this one, the pull handle is on the side facing the blade. So that when you pull it, everything's in line, all of your force is in the correct direction, and it pulls a lot easier. Now on this one, it's on the other side of the blade. So when you pull this thing, it's going to want to twist away, and you're going to have to fight it with this hand, and it's going to be a real pain in the butt. So what you're going to want to do right off the bat is switch this thing over to the other side. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. Now, the other thing to note about this, and this is a long blade, you don't usually start with a blade quite that long. I think that's 1.5 inches or so. If you look at these two blades, you'll notice some differences. This is a blade that's designed for cutting through urethane, which is what's in every modern vehicle since basically the late 70s, early 80s. I don't know exactly when they switched over. It's very narrow and very sharp, and it cuts through the urethane very easily. Now if you look at this one, it's more straight over here and then comes to a point. This is an old style blade, which would have been used for butyl installations, which butyl is like a very soft, sticky sealant that doesn't have nearly the holding power of the polyurethanes that are used on all the vehicles today. They only used butyl in, I think, like the late 60s or 60s and early 70s, kind of when they got away from gasket sets, but before they went to polyurethane. There's a whole lot of history behind that, but I won't get into it. So, and the other thing is this blade is like a butter knife. It's, you know, I'm running my hand along the edge of that, and it's not doing anything at all. So you're going to want to sharpen this thing. This blade right here is very sharp. I would not want to run my thumb along that thing. It would cut it. So the takeaway points, switch this to the other side and sharpen this blade. So I'm going to stop the video. We're going to take care of those things, and then we'll get... Alright, so we'll just show you how to swap this over to the other side real quick. This is a Phillips screwdriver and a 5/16. I think it's actually a metric size, but I don't have, I think it's an 8mm, but the 5/16 will work just fine. So we'll just pop that guy loose. Probably don't want to use your hood as a workbench, but this hood has terrible paint anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. Swap that guy over. And you don't want it to be too tight. This is a locking nut. If you get it too tight, this won't want to spin. So you just want to cinch it down so it's not coming loose. Don't get crazy with it. There we go. Good to go. All right, so we'll sharpen up and get back at it. All right, step one with any windshield replacement, well, most every windshield replacement, is to remove your cowling that covers your air intakes and any moldings that are around the edge of the vehicle. Now, these old Chevy pickups are a little different. They actually have an encapsulated molding, so it's bonded to the glass, so it's a little bit trickier to get off. You actually have to cut it off. But no big deal. Just one other thing to take care of. I will say, if you're planning on removing this windshield and saving it, you're going to have a very hard time using cold knives. Typically, I would use a wire winding tool or a fine knife or some other type of tool. Chances are, if you're using a cold knife, you're going to break this glass. Now, if it's really old, if it's a really old car or you're replacing it, that's no big deal. Who really cares? You're replacing it anyway. But if you're trying to save it, this might not be the best method for a beginner. Now, if you're super experienced guys, they can cut them out with a cold knife, no problem, and save them. Just something to keep in mind. So we'll speed up. I'll show you removing this cowling. It's going to be some Phillips head screws. You can see in there's a bunch of Phillips head screws, and we'll remove these wipers. So we'll get started on that, and here we go. These wipers have a little pull tab, so you raise it up a little bit, slide this guy out, and then just give it a little jiggle, it will come up. That guy there. And that guy there. One thing I'll note specific to these old Chevy pickups is underneath this corner piece, you've got one screw right there. When you pop that up, you have another Phillips screw right there. If you don't take that one out and start prying on this thing, it'll crack it. It's not a huge deal because it's not usually visible, but you could end up with a cowl cover that's rattles and is kind of annoying. So just whenever you remove this corner piece, remember there's a screw right there. You've also got a windshield wiper sprayer on the driver's side underneath here. Just be careful pulling this off, because you can kind of get these cracked and then your wiper sprayers won't work. Just gently slide this little vacuum hose off that the windshield washer fluid runs through, and that's it. Pretty simple. Just one other thing to take into mind, so you don't try to yank this thing out and ripping the sprayer lines apart. So that's that. All right, so we've got the wipers and the cowling removed from this truck. The next thing is to remove all the moldings. Now, like I said, these old Chevy pickups have an encapsulated molding that goes around the edge. Most vehicles don't have this type of design where this rubber is actually bonded to the glass. Usually you can just pull the molding off and it's super easy. Now, they do have one molding that pulls off. It's kind of a double molding, and this is what seals the door. And as you can see, that thing just pops right off. Now, I may try to get away with not cutting all the encapsulation off of this one, but I imagine I'll probably end up needing to. So actually, yeah, we'll just go ahead and do that. All right, so a couple of pointers with this cold knife, this windshield removal tool. A lot of people call it a pull knife, okay? And these pointers will make your life much easier using this tool, because it really doesn't take a whole lot of force to use this thing if you're using it correctly. So what you want to do is, this hand is really just for controlling the depth and the angle of the blade. All you're using this one is for control. The actual force is coming from pulling on this, and you want to pull in the direction of the windshield. You don't want to, so what I'm saying is, you don't want to be pulling like this or really low or any strange angle. You want to pull straight and as parallel with the windshield as possible. The other thing that you want to do is, you want to have this blade, let's see if you can see it there. You want to have this blade angled towards the glass just a little bit, because what you want is for this blade to ride along the surface of the glass, and what that does is it gives it a shearing action, just like a pair of scissors, and it makes it cut much easier. Whereas if you're trying to cut along the body, you don't get any of that shearing action, and it's much more difficult to cut. So towards the glass a little bit, just angled up just a hair, and pull in the direction of the windshield. So with that, we'll get started on cutting the glass out of this Chevy. Alright, so I'm not pulling on this thing all that hard. The handle seems okay. It's not too bad. I mean, it's pretty much what you typically get from a cold knife blade. This is looks like almost more of like a spring material than an actual cable, which is usually what you see. The big issue with this cold knife is that blade. I don't know if you can see, not even pulling all that hard, and this thing just bends around. I don't know if they made it out of some sort of soft steel, or I don't know what it's made out of, but let's see. If you see here, I can straighten it back out. I mean, I'm bending that with my hands, and I should not be able to do that with a cold knife blade. So I'm going to swap this out with a more traditional cold knife blade, and we'll see how it works from there. So this is the cold knife. I went to replace it with a normal blade. As you can see, I had to spread this out just to get the regular blade to fit, because your normal cold knife blade's a lot thicker than the one that comes with the Harbor Freight tool. Also, it's not quite deep enough, so your normal blades don't even fit in this thing. So I think I'm calling this Harbor Freight Windshield Removal tool junk. It might work okay if you're doing a very old car that's a butyl installation. It might work okay for that. That's about all that I would see that it would work for. I was trying to bend the blade back, and it's snapped off. So I think the biggest problem with this tool is just the blade. That's absolutely junk. I mean, look at the difference there in width and in thickness. It's hard to tell the thickness there, but this is an Equalizer brand, which is the leader in the industry in auto glass tools in general, but especially these cold knife blades. And this is a professional tool. This is Harbor Freight junk. So probably save your money. I'm going to be returning this thing, and I'll go ahead and show you how you cut it out with a quality tool. And it works just fine. It's a lot easier. But this Harbor Freight windshield removal tool did not do the job. So save yourself some money. Alright, so here she is, all replaced, nice and clean, fresh windshield, looks good. Just to summarize on this whole Harbor Freight windshield removing tool, this guy right here, in my opinion, it's basically junk. The actual handle itself isn't too bad, You can definitely tell a difference in quality between it and the professional products, but it would be usable. The big issue that I have with this tool is the blade. It's made out of a very soft material that bends and breaks very easily. The tool's assembled wrong out of the package, so you have to change that. The blade itself is extremely dull, so you have to sharpen it. You can't actually replace the blade with a standard cold knife blade because it doesn't fit in the handle. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this thing is junk. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.